What are the keys to victory for the Miami Dolphins against the Jacksonville Jaguars in week one? We are looking at this matchup here today for one final show before the game on Locked On Dolphins.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami, welcome to another episode of Locked On Dolphins. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Krabs, a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, host of Locked On Dolphins, co-host of Locked On NFL Scouting, author of Touchdown Miami on Substack, and the NFL Draft Lead for the 33rd team. You can find all of our shows here on the Locked On Network on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Tip of the cap to our everydayers, because it is your team every day. We don't just say it. We live it here on the Locked On Network. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code in all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. The Dolphins hosting Jacksonville at 1 p.m. at Hard Rock Stadium on Sunday afternoon. We did the crossover yesterday with Tony Wiggins of Locked On Jaguars, and even before that, earlier this week, the impression that I wanted to leave about this football team is this is a team that has talent. This is a talented football team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The chemistry of things coming together is one of the questions for them. There's new identity pieces in the same way that there are for the Dolphins. When the Dolphins have the football, we're going to look at keys to victory on both sides. And we touched on some of this yesterday on the crossover Thursday as well, but I want to go deep dive kind of into the personnel that Jacksonville has up front. Trayvon Walker, Josh Hines, Allen. They're not particularly deep on the edge. They're deeper on the interior. This is not the game that I think the Dolphins are going to find their short yardage 3rd and 1 run between the tackles type of success. Maybe they'll surprise me, but this feels like the kind of game where you have long and rangy linebackers, but linebackers who you could probably play some games with a lot of misdirection. I think the motions, the jet motions, the orbit motions, the backfield motions, that for me is going to be a really big piece of the puzzle as we try to figure out what are Jacksonville's linebackers doing with those motions. Are they bumping over a gap? Are they rotating and seesawing the safeties to flip the strength of the play? Probably a little bit of a feeling out process early on to kind of get a feel for if we want to motion away from where we're running. Are they bumping the linebackers and pulling somebody from a deeper alignment down into the fit? How do you take advantage of that? What kind of surfaces do you run to? But blocking these two dudes on the edge is essential to the success of the Miami Dolphins. And that doesn't mean that you have to get outside on them all the time because, again, the wide zone scheme, you're designed to create stretch in the front. And if just one guy wins a backside cutoff and the linebacker overruns it, or if the linebackers bump the other way because of the motion, you can press the hole as the running back and then stick your foot in the ground and read those gaps one by one down the line of scrimmage until you find the vacancy that is left behind based on the other things that you're doing with your play mechanics. So this feels like the game where the Dolphins and the 49ers and the Shanahan offenses, they have these wide zone concepts that offer multiple players thrown at the end man at the line of scrimmage. So maybe you have a tight end over there, and then you're going to have the another tight end split flow across the backfield. So for Miami, this might be Durham Smythe and Alec Ingold, or Julian Hill and Durham Smythe, or Julian Hill and Alec Ingold, or Grant Dubose as a wide receiver. Chase Claypool tried to do this kind of stuff when he was brought in last year. And you get an extra support block on the end man of the line of scrimmage before that second player who's effectively chipping on the end, but it's in run blocking and not in pass protection, and then climbs up to the second level to create more width and push. I'm looking for that. It might be a tight end and a offensive tackle. But whatever it is, I want to give a little extra attention in the run game with inside support and leverage on these two very physically gifted defensive ends in Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen. And if you do that, I think you can create the extra bump that you need to either help the tight end gain control so he can run outside, or alternatively, create the expansion that then allows you to stick your foot in the ground and run inside of that. That's a big key to victory for me, is how do you scheme up extra push on the edge guys? Because this is not the game, I don't think, to run crack toss and have Braxton Berrios cracking down on Trayvon Walker. I don't think that world ends very well for you. So you do kind of expect the Dolphins are going to have some kind of a new wrinkle in the mix as well. Last year, it was the exit motion, the cheat motion that's not illegal. Shout out Mike Florio. But they're going to have something new, whether that's from Devon Achane or Jonnu Smith or schematically with a new motion. I trust they're going to have their wrinkles, but their core principle plays, the biggest mismatch that I see is those guys on the edge with how freakishly long they are. And if you leave them in isolation against soft running surfaces, against either offensive tackle, they could probably handle the assignment, but to really give it the conviction that you need to really run with authority and have the confidence to run the ball, you'd like to give a little extra support to those guys. I'm not saying sit here and double team them on every play, but if I'm going to lock horns and block Trayvon Walker, then I want my support player, whoever the other skill, the adjuster player, the flex player, whether he's in the backfield or whether he's on the other side of formation, he's coming across in split flow at the snap. As he runs through, create that contact and knock to help me further secure him and create a little bit more space. In the secondary, they got a lot of length. It sounds like, at least Josh Hines Allen said during the week, kind of the game that we want to play is we want to force Tua to have to throw the ball. We think we can play that style. I assume that means you think you're going to be physical. And if that's the case, you can put all the emphasis in the world on trying to play methodically offensively. But if you want to play a lot of man coverage, which it sounds like the coverage matrix for this team with Ryan Nielsen is more man coverage than what you might expect, and you want to play man coverage against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and you want to press and disrupt timing, okay. I'll take my shots on Ronald Darby and Darnell Savage down the field. And if that's what you're going to give me, and I have a lot of confidence in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill to win those reps, then we're going to take our shots down the field and we'll take explosive plays if you're going to continue to give it to us. Now, if we get you out of that, that's where I think you go back to the run thing. Mike McDaniel talked a couple times this offseason about overplay. Offensive approach is all about overplay. What are they giving you? Take advantage of what they're giving you as a means of punishing them for taking something else away. And then when they adjust, then you go back to doing that thing they were trying to take away in the first place. So that's my run game, pass game dynamics. Now, if they want to play soft, if they want to play from depth, I kind of look at everybody they have in the secondary. Cisco's a bigger safety. Antonio Johnson's a bigger safety. Tyson Campbell's a big corner. You got linebackers that are big guys, but not necessarily like super quick twitch, short area spaces. If you want to play depth against us, then yeah, then I will dink and dunk. I'll take a lot of hitches. I'll take slants. And we'll just take completions as they come. That's kind of the core staples of what I kind of expect to see offensively. Defensively, aggressiveness. Name of the game? We'll see. I got some thoughts here on defensive notes and defensive aggressiveness coming your way next here on this episode of Locked On Dolphins. Make sure that you stick with us. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps to find the right professionals to your team faster and for free, because LinkedIn is not just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you are looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Defensively, going against Jacksonville, I have some thoughts about the wide receivers. I have some thoughts about the players that you need to take away. Kind of expect a lot of 12 personnel. Doug Peterson's done it at times. Evan Ingram, Brenton Strange was a second-round pick last year. Luke Farrell's a traditional inline type player. They've gone for more size at wide receiver. I do think there is, especially early for Brian Thomas in his career, there's a little bit of redundancy with the skill sets of both him and Gabe Davis. They're both guys that win down the field. The difference is Brian Thomas is actually dynamic, but he's a rookie in his first game. Are they just going to go authentic 11 and try and spread you out? I'd be surprised. I kind of am feeling that this might be a big nickel situation, a base defense and big nickel type of game plan. I'm expecting to see more of that than you might see on a usual week. If that is indeed the case, Benito Jones, welcome back to the fray, buddy. You're going to play. And we're going to ask you to stack up Mitch Morse. I think that's a totally fine assignment to hand Benito Jones to keep your linebackers clean. Eat double teams and don't give up space at the line of scrimmage. The names that I think are really important for the Dolphins to match talent with. Who are you comfortable with covering vertically down the field? If Evan Ingram, to be totally fair, his average yards per catch last year was like 9 yards, right? He was not a vertical player. He was more of a horizontal player than an underneath player. And then they went out and they got a lot of vertical players in Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis. It's what both of those players do best, is play vertically down the field. Who do you trust at the catch point in those situations? Because if you're going to play man, and I don't know how much man I would play, I'd probably prefer to play more zone and play fire zones and run simulated pressures behind zone packages behind it. But if you're going to play man, who do you trust to play the catch point vertically against size? Is it Ramsey with his new contract in tow? Is it Kader Kohu? Is it Fuller, Kendall Fuller? My gut instinct says take Jalen Ramsey and play him, lock him in man coverage opportunities against either one of the dynamic vertical big body down the field receiver types. Expect him to be very sticky in those situations. Fuller, I think foot speed to match with Christian Kirk. And if you play big nickel, you have 3 safeties on the field, you can kind of still shade and leverage somebody over the top and give a little extra support and help to who I think their most dynamic player is. Then you have Javon Holland, who in big nickel, which is 3 safeties, is the terminology if you're not familiar with it. That gives you an opportunity to move him into the slot, lower to the line of scrimmage. Jordan Poyer did this at moments last year. Last couple of years, he's been more of a nickel and second level type of presence with good run support ability. I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. If you're going to have a DB down there as the 7th hat in the box, somebody who has high integrity and run support is important. I think your best player there is Holland. And then you have May and Poyer sitting on the roof. Poyer can do it. But I want to match physicality for physicality down the field and do the Stephon Gilmore plan that the Patriots always did, which is, hey, if we're going to play man coverage in key situations, We're going to take the second best player that you have offensively, and we're going to take our best corner against it. And then that way we're going to give two bodies to give extra leverage against the best player, and that being Christian Kirk. I think underneath the interior quad of the two safeties high, whoever they end up being, you can rope the nickel in there if you need to. And your two linebackers, them being responsible for Travis Etienne in the passing game, Evan Ingram in the passing game, and if Christian Kirk is in the slot, is, I think, the winning determination for you defensively in this game. I would probably, from a pure calls perspective, play more zone to try to triangulate and leverage those middle of the field receiver types, and force more low percentage throws down the field with newer players with you as a quarterback. I think that's the biggest difference between the two teams with the new dynamics that exist on both sides. Is Miami, with their receivers, has a longer track record of playing together than Trevor, who's now coming into what year? This is year 3 with Doug Peterson, but Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis are new. I think that's the biggest thing. And if you can take advantage of that early on, I think that plays to your advantage as far as crafting a winning formula for this game. Now, how aggressive should you be from a pressure standpoint? It's a good question. I'm glad you asked. That's where we're going next here on this episode of Locked On Dolphins. Make sure that you stick with us. If you're looking to get into the action this weekend, make sure you play on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike in other apps, it is you versus the house and the numbers in Prize Picks, not you against other people. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can watch your winnings roll in. In the month of September, 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week of the month. So let the #1 overall pick do some work for you this weekend over on Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. We talked about this, I think it was on Wednesday. But the Jaguars as a team were very feast or famine at times. There were times when they had strong successes as far as ball security, and they won those games. There were a lot of times where the turnovers came in bunches, and they lost those games, Jacksonville did. So I consider Trevor Lawrence and what his pros and cons are, what he has shown and established himself to be as a player. And I do think this is the kind of player that you want to be able to pressure. He had 26 turnover-worthy plays. That's 3.8% during the 2023 season. Each of his 3 seasons in the NFL, that number has been over 3%. 20 turnover-worthy plays in 2022 and 26 turnover-worthy plays in 2021, his rookie season. He actually had a higher turnover-worthy play percentage this past year in 2023 than he did playing for Urban Meyer during his rookie season when he had 668 dropbacks. So when you put it through that perspective, putting pressure on him is something that I think you want to do and try to probe to be able to find without doing so at the expense of bodies and coverage. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time living in the world where you're sending 5 or 6 rushers. Now, if you want to do add-ons because they're keeping the backs and tight ends in protection, okay, totally get it. That's fine. You can green dog, which is when I have the back in protection as a linebacker, but he stays in to protect. Well, there's no sense me playing man coverage against him if he's just in pass pro. So now I rush the passer and add on to the front. You want to do that kind of stuff? Totally fine. Totally get it. But where are your simulated pressures coming from? Where you're showing 4 players, those are not the players who come. Somebody from somewhere else is amongst the 4 rushers, where ideally it's away from where they turn the center, you manufacture a free run. I think about this being stack linebackers in this game, because I do think this is an offensive line with who they have up front. They're probably going to want to try to challenge you physically. If you're in base defense, you got your nose tackle on the field, I feel pretty good about their ability to space the front. But if you're having what can turn into run blitzes and have linebackers have a designated gap that they know they're going to come through, and then when you're in your third and middles, your third and fours, third and fives, doing some of that same thing and having a guy on the edge, potentially to the backside away from wherever they put their tight ends, assuming their tight ends are on the ball. If they're off the ball, it's usually a pretty good indication that they're going to be coming across the set at the snap. Though that's probably where I would try to cook in this game. I would not try to make my living getting a lot of add-on pressures and simulated pressure looks when coming from a lot of depth. So stack backers, you can be 4 or 5 yards off the ball, but you have a direct pathway as compared to a nickel. If they spread you out and your nickel's the 4th guy, he's got to come from all the way halfway between the hash and the number. If they spread the formation, like that's such a far way to come. Or a safety's got to try to line up when he rolls down. No, I want to get on top of Trevor Lawrence quick, and I want him to feel it. So for me, I'm thinking linebackers, David Long and Jordan Brooks, maybe the most pristine opportunities to get your add-on pressures and then drop an athletic edge guy out to keep the numbers in coverage as close to 7 as often as you possibly can. Those are my thoughts. I think it is important to remember it is one game, win or lose. If we win, we're going to hop on the post-game show. We'll have a good time. We'll enjoy Club Dub. We'll first one of the season. We'll laugh, cheers, have a good time. If they lose, it's not the end of the world, right? It's a marathon. And I know that's in an instant gratification world, not the easiest pill to swallow. You want to be able to win all the games and leave no doubt and answer the questions and build a resume that you're comfortable with all throughout the season. But there will be adversity for this Dolphins team at some point this season, and not just in the midst of a game that they transcend and win and they're going to go 17-0, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. There's going to be moments where there's going to be guys banged up, there's guys not playing, where they're in a tough spot and they lose a game, and it's not going to feel fun. But I guess my message for Dolphins fans coming into this season is don't ride the roller coaster and live and die every week to week. I'm not saying that because I think they're going to lose. I picked them to win. I picked them to win myself. I picked them to win with Joe Marino on Locked On NFL Scouting. But I do think this will be a game that has some ebbs and flows. And if they come out on the wrong side of it, just know that this whole process is going to play out. There's things that you think you know about this team based off what this team did last year that is going to prove to be totally different. Two of the big things about the Dolphins after year 1 in the system is they couldn't run the ball very well, and they had no screen game. They were staples for the Dolphins, particularly when they were healthy, in a lot of ways. And one of the most productive rushing offenses in the league, and a lot of that responsibility falls on the backs. It's a good thing to have an even deeper running backfield this year. So I hope that's the thing where you can come into this game, you can enjoy this game. I'm hoping for a healthy game first and foremost, and I'm hoping for a win. And whatever we get, we'll work through it. We'll break it down together. We're going to have Grease on the Postcast If you're on the podcast feed, you'll see a postcast show. That's from Greece, who is part of our postcast initiative, where they're going to go live right after the game to try to bring you an immediate reaction to the game. I'll still have my post-game show. So don't be surprised if you see a postcast, you don't hear Kyle Krabs on it. That's part of the plan. But my post-game show will drop shortly after the game on Sunday afternoon as well. And we will talk about whatever happens. We will break it down. We'll explore why it happened on Monday. And then starting on Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to turn the page, I guess, on Tuesday this week, because we're at home on Thursday for week 2. And we're going to look up, and a week from today, we're going to be breaking down the week 2 game, and we're going to be off for 10 days. And we're going to have had played 2 games. We'll see what the Dolphins give us along the way. And we'll break it down as it comes. I'm Kyle Krabs. I appreciate you guys checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your day. I am out of here. You can keep it locked in here on the Locked On Network. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Make it a great rest of your day. And I will talk to you after Sunday's game. Go Fins.